You gonna finish that?
Well, I suppose so.
Whoa. And on this special episode, I'm Mikey. And we're in. And on this special episode, we're off to a great start where I don't even know my name, and I'm pretty sure that's Andy. I am the walrus.
I am the walrus.
I am the walrus. No, I'm Micah.
I'm Andy, and this is Quarantine Dads, episode 5.
Special episode.
Welcome to the Thunderdome, my friend.
Welcome to the Thunderdome. Or, as we call it, the liquor run.
This is the first liquor run that we're doing. We teased it a little bit last week, but we have 4 bottles in front of us that we're going to get into today. And because it's the first time we've done it, we're doing a little bit of a classic or an homage to the largest producer in the world. So we're only going to actually review one at the end of the episode, but we're going to taste 4 other liquor runs. We'll actually review everything we taste, I think. But
I mean, who knows? I mean, we could get to the end of this and be like, I don't remember what I tasted. Was that the Knob or was that the Baker's? But we've got 4 bottles. Obviously, you just heard me say 2 of them. They're all from Jim Beam. I'm super excited. We're going to start off today with Basil Hayden. Going to move to Knob Creek, their small batch 100 proof. Jim Beam Black Extra Aged Bourbon. This is a very well and very, very highly rated bottle, which for us and everything else I have a little bit of skepticism for. And then the last one, we decided not to do Booker's, but we decided to do Baker's instead. So we're going to do Baker's Single Barrel for our 4th and final. And then, as Andy had said, the Baker's side, we definitely will be doing a review of that. I'm kind of excited. Glad we found one of those kind of laying around. Sometimes they can be a little hit or miss on finding some bottles of Baker. But.
Yeah. And we'll get into that when we have that. It's number 4, so we'll see if we remember to get into it. But how's your week?
My week was actually pretty good. A lot of craziness. How was yours?
Well, we both had our youngest children had birthdays in the same week, so that was tons of fun. Actually, that was a good time. I mean, I don't know, so pure and innocent and insane by the end of the day, because they're just running around for hours and hours and hours, and then we let them eat cake.
Yes, and then there was cake.
Let them eat cake.
I let my youngest decorate her cake, and I just had to say, you can't simply do just one mountain of colored frosting in a section, because there were some pieces of cake that had some Mount Vesuviuses sitting on the corners and on the sides, and I think luckily my wife had edged off some of those or smoothed them out a little bit.
This actually makes a lot of sense now, because when we were having Friday birthday dinner for your daughter, and then Saturday birthday dinner for mine, so they could both have some special time because they didn't get to have an actual party with friends or anything like that. My family did a little bit of a drive-by birthday for mine, and they were there for half an hour, not the usual thing that we do, obviously. Mm-hmm. This makes a lot of sense, because Friday I was sitting in your kitchen and I looked over at the cake, and I was thinking to myself, who decorated that?
Yeah.
Because part of it made sense and part of it did not, and I couldn't figure out what the theme was, so the fact that she decorated it herself...
With my middle daughter.
Sense.
Yeah, so they both went to town with the frosting. Yeah.
And thinking back, I can think what part your middle daughter did and what part your youngest did very easily.
Yeah, the part that made sense was my middle daughter.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the part that was like, what's going on here, Andy Warhol?
Yeah, I mean, that's... So, we actually wrote it down, but your youngest daughter, I know that she requested a song on her actual birthday, right?
Yes, she did.
So what was that song again?
My daughters, we have... And actually, I got a tangent because I have to explain the backstory before I say the song.
Fine.
So, I'm a little bit of a metalhead. I really like a lot of harder rock, heavier music, and both my daughters have definitely embraced that part, so they like to watch some of the music videos and listen to some of the darker stuff. And Ellie had requested to watch the music video for Lamb of God, Redneck. And my youngest daughter decided to, she wanted to listen to Lamb of God, Redneck.
It makes so much sense. If you know this kid, it makes so much sense. She is a She-Hulk.
She is a She-Hulk.
I don't know. She's got 2 years on mine, and I think my youngest might be catching her in size, and my youngest is not big.
No, and we've always been little. Like, I was tiny as a kid growing up through high school and everything else like that. So, yeah, and my wife isn't tall.
Yeah. It was terrifying yesterday when we were not watching them and came into our front yards to see that they had gotten every bike possible out of my garage.
The tricycle and getting it past your car and not scratching it was impressive.
My garage had both our cars in it and no other room. Basically room enough for you to walk by. And I looked at my oldest and said, how did all this stuff get out of the garage? Immediately I figured my car had a scratch all the way down the side of it. And her response was, we all helped.
I mean...
And where these things are in the garage, there's no way to move them on their wheels from where they are. And where they were in the garage was buried under stuff because we have the winter garage organization, which is everything just got thrown in the back corner to get sorted out in the spring, and we haven't done it yet. I'm confident when she said that it involved your youngest daughter just lifting, I can see her in this pile of stuff, just throwing it all out of the way so they could get to the thing they wanted. I'm sure she was the heavy mover.
Absolutely. The funniest part is when she walked for the first time, she basically picked up a bin of Duplo and just picked it up and then just started walking with it. And like walked it across the living room, which is kind of why we started calling her She-Hulk, which is super funny. The other thing I was going to mention was you are well justified to show concern around your cars after the I'm going to draw with a rock on Mommy's car door.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, and one of the children picked up a rock and decided she was going to draw a picture on my wife's car door. So it was just a series of circular scratches that they felt very proud of because they'd been creative. We better get into it because we got 4 of these.
I know.
We'll keep talking, but we gotta start drinking or else this is going to be a 2.5 hour episode. And dear listener, trust me, you don't want that.
No, you don't.
All right. So first bottle is...
Basil Hayden. And...
Funny thing about Basil Hayden is I've actually never had it. I know it's one of those standard bottles. Yeah, I poured that a little heavy, didn't I?
We've got 4 to do. That's 2 fingers. That's the make the ice cube float and then let's make it an ocean.
Micah, I'm sorry. Okay? I'm not perfect.
No,
I'm not perfect.
We're not
perfect.
but
a man. I'm a mere mortal.
I'm just a mere mortal. It is 80 proof, though, so I don't feel as bad.
Just trying to make up for it.
Pretty recognizable bottle. It's got this, what I call, like, the poncho going over it, and a nice Texas belt buckle strap of wood and copper on the front of it.
I was saying before we started recording that when I'm out, that's one of my favorite bottles to see behind a bar, even though I've never ordered it, because to me, it looks really high class with the paper and the band, for lack of a better term.
It looks high class.
It does. I'm not saying it's not good. It looks really top shelf when you're behind a backlit bar.
It's fancy.
It's mellow on the nose. I'll give it that.
Yeah, I mean Basil Hayden's good. I think we go back to like Woodford and Double Oaked. I think Basil Hayden you see that pretty much anywhere you'd see a Woodford Reserve. Definitely a little bit of a higher quality from your standard white label Jim Beam, kind of brand. And
I'm impressed with it.
It's good.
We didn't even cheers before the first sip.
Cheers.
What the hell is wrong with us?
We're just out of whack.
We are. We're recording earlier. We're recording about 5 hours earlier than we usually do, which is a smart decision.
Considering
we're both intelligent, educated professionals, apparently,
relatively.
Because we decided to do this earlier in the day.
Well, and we were smart enough to say, don't worry, honey. We've got dinner covered, and we got pizzas yesterday when we went to the liquor store.
We bought pizzas and said, these just need to go in the oven, and we'll be there.
No fancy Instagram dinner to post or anything like that.
Not at all. I want to make a comment on this. I know we're not reviewing it, but what I like about it is that it's that 80 proof mellow. I could see this being a real easy bottle to just throw over rocks and have several if you wanted to have several in a night and not worry about being completely blitzed at the end of it.
I think the availability of it with the quality, it's
going to
be a lot of like, oh man.
It was either that or Blitzkrieg Bop.
When you came in, we're like, I need a beer before we get this started. And I just started singing Annie.
Oh, today's a good day. Good day. We had a little rain shower. The pavement smells nice. This is an early cardigan removal.
This is an early cardigan removal, but I think that was one that you wore before.
I don't know. 1, 2, 3. It may have been the week 3 cardigan. It may have.
Because it was warm, and you're like, this one's thinner and lighter.
Yeah,
and it's
you're
not
right.
the striped one.
So, dang it, I repeated a cardigan. But that's the reason I wore that one, is because it's thinner and lighter. You know?
I got my new hoodie on.
I like it. It's ribbed.
It is. I mean,
how does it feel?
It's waffle-ish weed, but it's really light. I had to put a shirt on underneath it, but I like it so far.
We thank you for that.
Yes.
You bought some other hoodies that you showed me?
They aren't here yet.
Yeah, but I need you to say what they are.
They're Nike Dry Fit Yoga hoodies that are short-sleeved hoodies.
There it is. So at least they have sleeves. This is what I'll give you. At least they have sleeves. Because every time I see a sleeveless hoodie, I want to both buy it out of a sense of irony or alternatively buy it to burn it so there's one less sleeveless hoodie in the world.
I would agree with the sleeveless. So I bought the matching 3/4 leg yoga pants too, because I'm just feeling like finding my inner self and inner peace.
Did you order a slackline kit too?
No, I was going to borrow it from the Renaissance Festival down the road.
We don't have trees big enough to slackline.
No, we do not have trees big enough to slack. I was just going to do it between our houses. You're fine with that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, we do everything else between our houses. We've contemplated... Okay, so here's what we've contemplated between our houses, considering the yards, the kids, the time we spend together. We have contemplated going in on a joint fence that doesn't have the wall down the middle of the property line so that we have 2 yards for our dogs and children to run in. Mm-hmm. We have thought about putting in a fence, but putting in a door between the yards.
With a retractable drawbridge?
Hang on. I'm getting to the drawbridge. So we've thought about the door between the yards, right? We've joked, because I'm sure there's a lot of city code issues, so it'll never happen. But we've joked about putting a bunker on the property line. A tunnel system. That was between the homes. It's
like a T. So we've got the center tunnel, and then you've got the line coming out into the actual bunker.
But with your technological experience, it would not just be a survivalist bunker. It would be a literal man cave.
Yes.
That's all it would be. Mm-hmm. It would be a way to go from house to house when the weather is not nice, and also for us to disappear for hours on end.
That's true. We could do it above ground, too. I mean, we've got somebody on the Homeowners Association, and then it's technically not a permanent structure if we put them on the
abolish the HOA, then it doesn't matter.
We can't. We have public domain. We have public property.
We're bringing it down from the inside.
Bringing it down. Undermining it at the highest level possible.
But the favorite idea is definitely, because we have a dip, an impression between our yards, is that we simply fashion a maybe double wide in terms of 2 people could walk across it. Some sort of bridge.
Rephrase that. That's 2 kids can run across one can simultaneously, which our daughters do frequently.
Right, absolutely. But it's also a dip that the dogs, if they run back and forth, they know to leap over instead of go down through. I actually do the same thing when I'm often running between our houses, is I jump over it.
Yeah, I try and do a big stride, right, when I'm going through that, or just leap over it.
I have shorter strides than you, so I like the leap. It makes me feel athletic. But
I got some fitness in.
But we talked about a bridge to level that out, but have it be on a rope and pulley system so it can be a drawbridge so that if there is a spat or if one of us is unhappy, we can raise the drawbridge to indicate our displeasure with the other one.
And 2 things. Number 1, the bridges up comments during the summers are a very standard inside joke. When somebody says something that we disagree
if I get upset
with,
at night, the bridge is going to be up when you wake up tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
End of story.
And our wives do the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're fully aware. And the second part of that is our wives fully expect us to build a bridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they actually do expect
I think at this, yes.
Like if they went away for a weekend and came back and a bridge was built, they'd be like, oh, they finally got around to something. So they wouldn't criticize it.
Because we've got to do the children's playhouse, right? Mm-hmm. And I was going to make like a base platform, kind of like my lower deck, where we were going to put the little kids' house. And then,
do you envision any routing?
Yes,
being needed.
There's going to be obviously we got to route all the corners. It's a kids' play area.
Okay, great. I'm game. That is we have established that is my technical contribution to anything that is built.
And digging holes.
I route things and dig holes. Yes. That's it.
Yeah, and to that, when I was talking about that with your wife, and my wife was there too, the first thing that immediately came up was, are you going to do the bridge then too?
I wasn't there for that comment.
You weren't, because your wife was looking
probably in an anxiety-induced panic under a weighted blanket somewhere.
Yes, that actually sounds like the similar time frame in conversation. This was a couple weeks ago. The cool thing that they did was, your wife was looking at she was going to do a run to Home Depot. And so I was like, get these footer cinder blocks. Yep. And then my wife was like, these are the ones that we use for our lower deck. Mm-hmm. And that's what we wanted to do for the kids one. And then I was like, get an extra 4 for the bridge. Because then if we can do those, that'll make it more stable.
Yeah. We should do it. I don't see why not. I mean, we have nothing else to do right now.
Absolutely.
So we might as well build a legitimate bridge between our yards. It seems
we've been building emotional bridges here for the past 6 to 8 years.
Yeah, really. Do we? We didn't talk about this. So on our production meeting, do we want to talk about the basil more than anything we've said, or just drink it and move on?
The one thing that I would say about it, it is a really dry bourbon, and that's one of the things I think why you finished it so quickly is it kind of just dries out the back of your palate.
It's dry. It's mellow.
Yeah, there's not a ton of flavor. It's not a huge, powerful thing. No. It's smooth. I mean, if you're looking for something that's not complex and a bunch of all over the place things, I mean, it's a smooth bourbon.
My impression of it is actually, if I were to keep a bottle in the house, heaven forbid, that non-drinkers who wanted to have whiskey when they were at my house.
So you're saying our other neighbor that doesn't drink at all.
Right.
Like this would be
I never have those types of people at my house, but if I had those friends, this would be a bottle that would make sense to pour them because it's completely inoffensive, enjoyable, mellow. It's not going to knock them on their ass. Mm-hmm. And with that, we are both empty.
We are both empty. And if they don't really drink, I think this will still kick them on their ass. But yes.
Well, right. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Oh, man. So now we have the Knob
one
Creek.
that I am the most looking forward to. In the most sarcastic and air quoting way possible.
So the reason we ended up with Knob Creek, we should probably talk about Beam at some point.
Cool company.
Why don't you talk about why we did what we did on this first liquor run?
Well, I think one of the big things is obviously Beam Suntory, which Suntory is a Japanese company?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
When my voice goes up in inflection, it's normally an open air question mark without the end.
You and everyone else. I know. And you look at me for confirmation like I'm going to know. Good thing I knew on that one.
You did know. You've been doing better than I have at actually pulling up a lot of the tasting notes and other things. I mean, they export...
I'm doing a horrible job of pouring these right now.
We've got 4 more to go. Or this is our second. We've got 2 more to go.
I just spilled all over your desk.
You got pretty heavy-handed again, and you just spilled all over the desk.
I did. So you were saying, to get us back on track, to ignore my shortcomings.
Yes.
Jim Beam Suntory.
Beam Suntory,
largest producer in the world?
Yes. And I know that having toured Jim Beam, they are the number 1 manufacturer and largest manufacturer today of bourbon. Mm-hmm. Buffalo Trace, I believe, is second. We decided when we were doing... the first liquor run, what did we want to do? Do we want to go by state? Mm-hmm. And you and I were both in agreement there's just too much that you can't quantify it in 4 bottles of what Kentucky is.
Right.
But maybe when we get into, the Northeast
we can do small states. Obviously, we're in Minnesota, so we could do a Minnesota episode, but this was, how do we take Kentucky bourbon, put that into... a liquor run, into an episode, have that be the first one because, well, it's not the only thing that we're doing and recording and hanging out and having some fun. It obviously is the baseline for the episode and the structure and something we both enjoy and are really passionate about. So it became, well, let's take a producer, and Beam was the obvious choice.
And considering what
Kentucky, they own, you have it in front of you on your computer, right?
Yes. They obviously whiskey, tequila, cognac, vodka, gin, rum, liqueurs.
The cognacs, the main cognac was, I think, Cavassier. The main vodka was Effen.
Effin, and then they have Haiku, and then they have Pinnacle vodka.
Yeah. And then whiskey, it's Knob Creek, Basil Hayden's, obviously Jim Beam, Baker's, Booker's, Maker's Mark.
Legend. And that's just their bourbons. And we go into, obviously, Yamazaki, Hibiki, the Cheetah, Suntory whiskey.
I think doing some reading before, I think it was
LaFrog.
Beam. Oh, yeah. They're Scotch as well. I was surprised to see that they own...
I can never pronounce this, but it's one of my favorite.
Auchentoshan? Let's just go there.
That is correct, because I've had somebody... Because it's Gaelic.
I have an unopened bottle of that in my liquor cabinet.
Yes.
It's in the back of my liquor cabinet.
I gave it to you.
No, you didn't.
3-Wood?
Nope. I know who gave it to me. You did not. It was a gift. The painting was a gift, Todd.
The painting was a gift.
Ooh, speaking of gifts, hang on. Let's start this Knob Creek.
No.
Oh, come on.
All right. Cheers.
You want to wait, don't you? You want to wait until later.
I'm deciding on whether or not I should do what your wife said I should as far as a reaction. So, backstory. Yeah. I gave Andy a beard brush because it was a right-handed bristle-cut beard brush, which is as stupid as that sounds. I'm left-handed, and the bristles are all in the wrong direction.
And I'm growing a fantastic beard. I have to say, over the last 4.5 weeks. I really enjoy it, and the beard brush has made actually a lot of difference. It's softened up the last 4 or 5 days with the beard brush.
Mine is just bushy.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So you gave me the beard brush.
I gave you a beard brush.
You did.
Because I looked at it and was like, that's not going to work. Mm-hmm. So I just did what I normally do with that. Instead of waste my time in return a $12 beard brush, I just threw it into a drawer to later, just get rid of. So that actually isn't as unpleasant, and we didn't put any ice cubes in that. Or no, you did.
Did I?
Did you? Yes.
No, I did.
You did.
These cubes are melting quickly today.
Well, we gotta put the lid back on.
So you gave me a beard brush.
Yes, I gave you a beard brush.
A few days afterwards...
You've been teasing this since really, like, Monday or Tuesday.
My wife is really concerned that I've oversold this. She actually, yesterday morning, I think it was it was yesterday morning, Saturday morning, she said to me, you really need to stop talking up the gift that you're giving Micah.
And my wife separately said, don't really get your expectations that high. So it's just something that you got you. But Andy, suffice to say, has just been like, dude, I'm so excited for the gift.
I'm so excited for the giving of the gift. And the funny thing is that we were away from both our wives yesterday, and I said, hey, by the way, my wife is concerned that I'm talking this up and you're going to be disappointed. Yeah, my wife. And your response was, I gave you like a $10 beard brush. My expectations are pretty low. And I was like, see? Yeah. See, I'm just having fun with it. So I think your expectations are appropriately placed. I think what it is that they think our relationship is so emotionally fragile. And they can't afford, right now, when our families are all each other has socially, they can't afford you and I to be in a drawbridge up situation. Yeah. So they are trying to manage.
They're trying to keep the drawbridge down.
They are trying to manage. They are trying to wag the dog on this gift giving to make sure that it doesn't start some sort of conflict.
Side note to that, yesterday, by the way, of us both being in agreement, the fact that we moved the dog octagon.
Oh yeah, it was great.
And we moved it right into where your drainage spout was.
Please. I know I already said it, but welcome to the Thunderdome. That's what we say every... Yeah, but anyway, we'll get to that.
And I like that we both looked at it, kind of said that they're totally going to dig that up. Whatever. I'm fine with it. And then just moved on. We moved it into the shade.
We both have dogs that are about 2 years old now. Yeah. Yours is a little older than ours. And they're really, really good friends, and they want to play with each other. So last summer, your wife had the genius idea to go to, or was it 2 summers ago already?
It was 2 summers ago, and my wife was looking for them, and then I found these ones at Fleet Farm that you could connect 2 of them together to make a mega.
So she goes to Fleet Farm, and she gets these metal, 3.5, maybe...
They're 36-inch high.
Yeah, so 3 foot high, cages, right? Not a cage.
It's almost like chicken wire, so it's just basically a little dog fenced in area where.
But she bought 2 of them, so it could be bigger, so we could actually put them in and they roll around and play. And we will put them out there on nice days at 11 in the morning, and we won't bring them inside until 5.
Till right around dinner time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll play out there for 8 hours, and we give them water, and...
we love our dogs.
Yes.
Just, we don't need to justify our existence as dog owners. But anyway, the painting was a gift, Todd. So, can I give this to you?
Sure.
Okay.
I am, by the way, a little miffed at how ridiculously large this is. And yes, it is in a home goods bag.
I also made it clear that I bought myself one and thought it was so great that I just ordered 2 instead, so the box is half empty.
So I'm going to let you know right now, I'm probably going to already love it. But my wife had told me, my wife had told me and your wife had said, you should do the reaction of, oh, it's okay. And then just move on. And there's no fucking way!
There's no way you can!
Troy and Abed in the morning! Yes! I got a Troy and Abed in the morning coffee mug.
We've been reminiscing about how great Community was.
It's because we've been watching it.
Yeah, I know. You've been watching it with your kids, and we've been joking. Every time it comes up, we stop and we go, Troy and Abed in the morning! And So I looked for the coffee mugs that they drank when I rewatched one of the scenes. I said to myself, they have to sell those. And I found one, so I got you one too. I think that's the episode picture. Screw the bottle of Baker's. I think that's the episode picture.
I think NBC might be a little pissed.
I don't know. Can't we just tag NBC and say it was their show? I mean, it was their show for what, 4 seasons, and then they dropped it?
Yeah. We're on the 4th season right now, which I was actually arguing that the 4th season is my favorite because of how ridiculous it gets.
So hang on. That means NBC is baffling. And when was Community on? It was after
2009-ish
right?
area.
It followed The Office.
It followed The Office.
But either way, I would assume that the same exec who came in and didn't extend Steve Carell and basically forced him out of The Office was also the exec that was still around roughly 6 years later when Community... I understand the concept of ratings and everything else, but at some point, if people like a show, what's the harm in letting it run to a natural conclusion versus just pulling it? I don't get it. Because it's not like NBC has, or CBS, any station, has so much great content that they can't afford to take something that maybe has run its course, but let the writers actually wind down the show versus just say, no, you're done. Especially when you know you have a cult following like that. I don't get it.
And it was such a good show. It's still, rewatching it again, my kids are infatuated with what was your favorite episode, Dad? And I'm like, has it been on yet? Has it been on yet? And there's so many good ones. There's the Pillow Fort. There's the Pillow Fort and Blanket Fort. And then when it's basically it's narrated by one guy that's just awesome that does narrations, and he basically did it like Civil War style, where there are conflicts and the Battle of Library Town. And
what was one? Wasn't there one? I haven't watched it
There's
for a while.
2 paintball wars. Those are good.
The paintball wars were good. Wasn't there one where Abed's apartment lights on fire?
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
That was there are 6 parallel universes based on the dice roll.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really good one. And then that introduced Evil Abed.
Which was just weird.
It was just weird, but it was based on is this the best universe, blah, blah, blah.
I need to go back and watch the show, because it's been so long since I watched it, and I loved it, but once it goes off the air, it's like The Office. I'm remembering how great The Office is, because A, it's on constantly right now. B, my kids really like it, as we've talked about, so it's good. I can flip it on and see an episode and remember jokes that I've completely forgotten about. There's one in season, I think it's 5, and it was on again today. It's where Dwight, at the start of it, is doing his annual martial arts class in the office, and Jim convinces him that
sexual harassment training.
No. Sexual harassment training is like episode 3. This is season 5.
Okay.
But Jim goes, so Dwight says something about a throat punch, and Jim says, is there anyone who can demonstrate that? And Dwight tries to get Kevin to demonstrate it. Kevin refuses. And Jim goes, well, isn't the only worthy opponent of you yourself? And Dwight goes, good point. So he starts to demonstrate the aggressive moves, and then the blocks, and then the move that the counter to that, and then the counter, and he's going through this whole fight scene with himself, and it ends with the element of surprise of him holding up his right hand, saying the element of surprise, and punching himself in his own groin with his left hand. And it just cuts to Pam putting 2 hands on her coffee cup and taking a sip like, oh my god, this is great.
So there are 2 episodes that are the intros that are by far my favorite. Number 1 is when Jim goes to the office as Dwight and does the whole mimic of Dwight, which was perfect. And the other one is all of the shit on his desk is now in the vending machine, and Pam walks up and hands him a bag of coins. Just because the Jell-O was funny,
I don't know.
But just the pure and simple fact that, like, I'm not helping you with this, here's the money to get all your shit out of the locker.
I think one of the most genius things is when...
The fake Christmas desk was great, too. Where he goes to sit on his chair and the whole thing collapses.
And you also have when he puts his desk in the bathroom.
Yes.
But I think the most underrated ones, because it's like, it's the long game prank of I took Dwight's stationery. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, because that episode was on I took Dwight's stationery and now I'm faxing him on his stationery as future Dwight.
Yes, that's so good. Oh, and just I love the fact that Pam and Jim have always been on it together, so that like he thinks it's one of them and the other one sends so many big signals there that it's just freaking hilarious.
The fight between Dwight and Andy over Angela when Jim goes around the office. Jim goes around the office and removes all his weapons, and he's taking like the like whatever it is, like the sigh from like behind the copier.
I need all of your weapons out of here. This is a fist fight, like gentlemen.
What's Andy doing? The Prius is silent under 5 miles an hour. Dwight can't hear him.
So So here's something kind of fun.
So yeah, that's your gift.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. So, you can change your backgrounds, and it does this thing in Teams. When I do web video conferencing now, my favorite background is the interview conference room from the office.
I need to
because it's so cool. I'll sit there with that, and it'll be in the office, and I'll just be deadpan, sitting on a call on mute.
And as I'm looking at the picture that you just pulled up on your screen, we see Stanley in the background. Is there a more underappreciated character in recent comedic memory than Stanley?
Jerry from Parks and Rec.
Okay, so I should have had a caveat of on a show I've watched, because Parks and Rec is not a show that I've watched.
I know. You gotta get into it. There's so many just funny things. And it's so well done that they got to really embrace and kind of bring parts of themselves into those characters because of how long it was on. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the writing was like start here, end here. And they just got to kind of improv what they wanted to do.
So I just realized we're the length of basically one of our episodes, and we have not finished Class 2, so we should probably
because we're going at one glass per.
If you're like me and you listen to podcasts while you work out, this is a 3-workout episode. You're going to need some time. This is what we call an investment.
Worthwhile? That's up to you.
So you can talk about what you think of the Knob Creek while I finish it.
We obviously take the wrappers off so you don't hear that through the mic and everything else. When we took that and we smelled it, I was like, oh man, this burns a lot worse than I thought it was going to. When I actually started drinking it, it was quite delicious. It has a little bit more of the body. It has a little bit more of the in-your-face kind of punch from a bourbon standpoint. And I get caramel. I get, I really, really, really get sweetness, which I think you don't get on the Basil Hayden.
No, the Basil Hayden is mellow and
dry
easy.
And mellow.
This is sweet. This is like standard sweet gnocchi.
Sweet gnocchi, yeah. I am pleasantly surprised at how much that and how good that is based on tasting that after Basil Hayden.
So if I were going to buy a bottle of, because these are the more basic of these producers, right? Mm-hmm. Or of these brands. Yeah. I would buy the Basil again because of the reasons I said earlier. It's not as high a proof. It's a little more drinkable. Just kind of that easy. I would buy something. This makes me want to buy one of the 10-plus year bottles or a barrel-proof bottle of Knob Creek to see what it's like.
I mean, you could...
And I didn't expect that when we opened it.
I could go get the bottle of Knob Creek that I have that's in my pantry right now, and we could taste that as well.
You're a damn heathen.
Smoked maple.
I got you a Troy and Abed in the morning mug, and you're suggesting I drink smoked maple bourbon? You stop that. Stop it.
We're going to do brunch.
Stop it.
We're going to do brunch one of these days. We're going to do brunch one of these days, and I'm going to pull that out and pour that shit on pancakes. You'll be hammered by lunch and loving me.
I don't need smoked maple bourbon to make that happen if I really want it to happen. We could also just crack out a bottle of sparkling wine and have mimosas like normal hipsters who brunch.
We're hipsters?
No, I was saying like we could aspire to be them. Did I tell you about...
By the way, if I ever start talking about like patchouli oil or anything like that, you have my permission to shoot me.
Well, hang on a second. I have two thoughts. One is, did I tell you about the two friends in their mid-20s who I sat next to with my daughter at lunch about 2 months ago?
No.
And one of them was talking about her bridal shower and wedding and how upset she was at one of their mutual friends who was also getting married?
No.
Okay, I might circle back to that in a minute if I feel compelled. The other thing, though, is that you throw out patchouli oil... You're the one who bought short-sleeve hoodies and 3/4-length pants.
That's the joke, is like, I'm not cutting my hair, I'm not cutting my beard, and I've always loved incense. So, like, you know, we'll light some incense in here.
I swear to God, I'm going to wake up...
I'm gonna get some mats out.
I'm going to wake up one morning at like 7 a.m. and walk out on my patio with a cup of coffee and look over and you're going to be doing frickin' Tai Chi in your backyard. You're going to be like Sunshine from Remember the Titans.
You do also realize that most weekends I sleep until like 9:30.
That's my point. 7 a.m. on a Sunday. Micah's doing Tai Chi.
In the backyard.
Yep.
Full man bun.
Oh, God. You know, I think man buns get a bad rap.
They do.
I think if you have the hair that's quality enough to do a good man bun... You should be celebrated, because that's not easy.
Because I have lots of friends that have really cool man buns, and they're gorgeous.
Yeah, I don't, obviously it's just a guy with long hair. Apparently that freaks some people out. Me, I'm comfortable enough in myself.
We're cool.
I mean, I know I'm, like, probably slightly, like, average-ish at best. So, you know, if a guy wants to rock a man bun because he's fit and with it and does yoga and has grown that hair out and made that commitment, I mean, that's like 45 minutes of washing his hair in the morning if our wives are any indication.
Well, let's refocus that as to, if I'm using patchouli oil, there's probably dreadlocks involved, and I'm probably not washing my hair.
Different story.
Different
story. I remember seeing something when, I think it was in college, and it was a documentary or something, and it was a guy that had dreads and had not taken care of them in a long time. And the things he found in them included a fairly sizable spider that was terrifying. So that's all I have to say about that.
Anyway.
Jim Dean Black.
Jim Dean Black. All right. So this is a IWSC trophy winner for world's highest rated bourbon. Rabid
Limit.
Damn
Limit.
Damn it, Ramithorn.
Limit. Do you know that movie? Limit. That's a funny word. Oh man, Black Sheep.
Yes, I know that. Okay, I've seen that movie. I just don't.
And then they get pulled over right after that, and he asks him how fast he thinks he's going. He's like, I don't know. I'm doing 55, 60 tops, and the trooper goes 7 miles an hour. Oh, so Jim Dean Black, extra aged, like you said.
Now we're getting to weird. Now we're getting to the weird.
You said IWSC, and that's International Wine and Spirit Competition, just to be
probably
clear.
Owned by Beam Suntory. No,
who knows?
We look at it's like JD Power.
I haven't read on it yet. I've been meaning to, but I apparently have too many other things to do when locked inside. But San Francisco was just in the last month or so, right?
That's a place.
No, in terms of San Francisco, the large spirits competition that's in San Francisco every year.
I believe so.
Yeah, I've just been meaning to read up on... Cool story, Hansel.
Cool story. Well, thanks.
Thanks, Olaf.
Thanks so much. I like warm hugs.
I was climbing Mount Vesuvius and I started falling, and then I realized I've never even been to Mount Vesuvius. Cool story, Hansel. Thanks, Olaf.
So...
Good God. I'm just going to put my head down. This is exactly what we knew it would be.
This is exactly what we expected. Yes. This is... So, as far as the first episode...
Number 3.
First episode
I like you and you like me.
The first episode being lower your expectations.
Miss Lippy's car is green.
They were... So, as far as...
You're not going to keep up for the next 20 minutes, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not. Damn it. I just go back to Denny Green. They are who we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
Yeah,
this is what you expected. This is what you anticipated with some guys doing heavy-handed pours.
Green. Let's drink one to the sheriff, shall we?
Who never once said the NFL, but said the National Football League every single time. Like, that is an acronym you can actually do.
All right. It's not as, like, coming at your face like a spider monkey as the Knob Creek.
Like a spider monkey!
I'm looking. I'm trying to
Littering hands.
It's 86 proof. So it's closer to the basil than the knob. Well, I'm just going to bounce it off of a bunch
of stuff.
So can we talk about Denny Green for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, amazing.
I mean,
one of my favorite coaches.
And growing up in Minnesota, how can he not be? Because that was he was the guy that put the Vikings on the map. For us,
John Randall.
For our age, like though. I mean, that's John Randall, Randy Moss, Randall McDaniel, Chris Carter, Randall Cunningham. God rest their soul. 1999 NFC Championship game. Let's never speak of it again.
Randy Moss,
Gary Anderson, Gary freaking Anderson.
Dude, I saw him.
You hadn't missed a kick all year, Gary.
I saw him with my mom in a Walmart in Eden Prairie like 3 months after that happened.
Did he have his head down in shame?
He did have his head down, and I was like, I know him. And my mom looked at him, and she goes, yes, let's leave him alone.
That may be the greatest thing you've ever told me. Oh, that's incredible. But Denny Green, when they were going to Buffalo, I think it was they were going to Buffalo, and someone asked him about the weather, and he's like, they got the weather up there. It's like it's the Calcutta Clipper. It's the...
You said up there.
Yeah.
You just said up there.
Up there. Up there. I don't find my Minnesota accent to be that strong until I start to drink, and then some of it slips out.
That is actually, a lot of my friends have said that. You're like, you're normally pretty good. And then as soon as you, I can tell you had a few when the Minnesotan comes out. Minnesotan.
I have the most adorable video of my oldest from being young, and she picks up a caterpillar on a stick.
I like that, though, by the way. I do like that.
I do too. I mean, it's okay. I'd take the basil over that, frankly. But that's only because if I'm gonna...
That's richer. It is. So if you were to drink those two straight, and you had to choose between one of those... Or actually, the first three...
we drank both of them straight in the last half an hour, and I just chose between one of them, but go on.
Go on. You were talking about a caterpillar on a stick?
Yeah, she just holds the caterpillar up on the stick, and we ask her where it lives, and she's like 20 months old, and she goes, down there. Down there. What do you do with the caterpillar? And she goes, eat it.
That's like my middle daughter going outside and just walking under the deck. And
your oldest daughter, your middle child.
She's the oldest daughter I have.
Well, I'm doing math silently in my head. Yes, I think that's what I meant.
Yes.
It's just you have 3 children, so she's your middle child. She's your oldest daughter, because you said middle daughter, and I'm being all technical.
The middle one. Actually, she finds it hilarious when I call her the middle one.
That's good. I just have the oldest and the youngest. The loud one and the louder one.
She goes outside. She's probably 3 or 4. And we're like, look, a caterpillar. She runs up, just stomps it.
That does not surprise me at all.
And then she looks at me and my wife, and we were both mortified because she's been so gentle. Yeah. And then she freaked out because it was a bug. And then she looked dead in my wife's eyes and goes, it was nature, so I had to kill it.
Yeah, your oldest daughter, your middle child is... How do I put this kindly? Well, how do I put it kindly and not creepily? I adore her, first of all. All your children are great.
No.
But I adore your middle child. She is fantastic in so many ways. And she's also going to be the popular kid who is also underneath just hardcore metal. And it's going to be so confusing to her teenage friends because they're going to love her and they're going to be terrified of her.
And yet I'm pretty sure at her current age, you could drop her into a boardroom and she'd be running that shit by noon.
Well, that's kind of my point. Is she's no nonsense. She knows what she wants. She's smart. I mean, all our kids are smart. But she's gonna have that metal undertone where all of a sudden she's gonna be 15 and someone in her friend group is gonna annoy everyone else and all the other girls are gonna be gossiping. And granted, this sucks when kids do this. Our kids such assholes.
She will be a mean girl. There's no nice way to say
But she'll be a mean girl in the stance of all the other girls will be oh, we don't like what Becky did, blah 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 blah, and she's like, yeah, I put a dead rat in her locker.
So, to understand my middle child and my oldest daughter, we decided to put her in Spanish immersion because she's actually extremely intelligent, and that's why the rat and the thing. Like, she takes, like...
Oh, yeah.
She takes psychological war games to that next level.
I'm terrified of upsetting her. That might be why she's my favorite, is just because I'm terrified of her.
Yeah, you don't fuck with her.
This episode has explicit content.
I've been clicking that checkbox every single time.
Oh, I mean, that's good, but,
Definitely.
4 bottles. Loose lips.
Loose lips.
Loose lips raise all boats. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good. Go on.
Transparency.
Spanish immersion.
So we decided to put her in Spanish immersion just for a challenge. Because we knew she'd be bored in school and everything like that. So that is officially backfired on her, and my youngest daughter are both in full Spanish immersion. My wife and I are not fluent in Spanish, and now have been having to teach and distance learning interactions with our children where I can read the sentences and tell the kids how to say stuff. She will correct me on my pronunciation. More importantly, she'll tell you when you're wrong. And to take it full circle, I can't do math in Spanish. That's been really hard. But my daughter's talking shit, probably about me or my wife, in full Spanish in front of us.
Oh God, that's funny. If you need help with that, and this is just me, like having had a few, I did take 5 years of Spanish. I do remember a lot of it, although I'm not conversational. So if you ever need me to just like give you a Spanish break, let me know. I'll come on over.
Yeah, good luck with that, because I'm pretty sure those kids will talk circles around.
No, they will. They will.
The other neighbor happens to be a teacher.
Right.
And
isn't he a math teacher?
He's a math teacher, but he's also fully bilingual and spent he spent 2 years or 2 semesters in Spain for study abroad.
I didn't know that. What up, neighbor, if you're listening, because I know you've listened.
He's actually the first one that had requested to be a guest speaker.
He's
on
a
here,
delightful
and
gentleman.
I really, really, really like him.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's one of the most kind individuals I've met in our neighborhood.
Yes. Including present company. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, he's kinder than I am. Yeah, he's a better human being than I am, let's be honest.
Than either one of us.
Put together.
Yeah. No, that's the truth.
That's a fact, Jack! Yes. Did you watch WWE? Isn't that from WWE?
Had that conversation.
Like, that type of thing always reminds me of WWE, WCW. I know I brought it up the other day, but I'm bringing it up again. Did you watch WWE, WCW, like, at all?
I mean, my interaction with that was Jake the Snake, Hulk Hogan, and the Undertow for like 3 months.
So me saying, oh my God, it's Sting, where'd he come from? He has a bat, like, does nothing for you?
Not really, no.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. That's so unfortunate. There's so many tangents. There's so many things.
There's so many possibilities.
There's so many things right there for me. And
American wrestling is kind of its own cult following.
Because NWO, do you remember the NWO at all?
The New World Organization.
New World Order. But that's around that same time of WWF before they were forced, I think, to change to WWE because the World Wildlife Foundation filed a trademark infringement. That's why they had to change
follow that very closely, and I really, really still want the 2 pandas with a chair. WWF
nice.
shirt.
That'd be amazing.
You've seen that, right? So it's one panda bent over, and the other panda is up with its arms up with a chair, and it just says WWF. Like he's gonna get
awesome.
it.
But that was the mid to late '90s when the WWF, WCW wars were going on, where those 2 organizations were really battling it out. Nice. Just pulled it up. I love that.
You can get it on hats. You can get it on shirts.
I would get that on a hat.
Yes.
Find that on a black hat, and I will wear the shit out of that hat. That's amazing. That was when I watched a lot of it though. So it's not the really, really old school stuff. I remember the old school stuff growing up, but my parents weren't necessarily huge on flipping on Saturday morning wrestling. But it was that Nitro and Raw in the 90s when they were coming about, and man, Sting was so awesome. I want to be Sting in a future life. Can we arrange that? Probably not.
No.
Can we get back?
But that does involve those pants I bought. The 3/4 length.
I don't.
It's just in this quarantine, I'm becoming lazier and lazier, and I figure that's like I can't decide whether I want pants or shorts. And
no one sees your legs on conference calls, so why not let your calves breathe?
Did you see the video of the broadcaster that had his leg up on his chair and didn't have any pants on? And so you just see inside thigh, knee, and then part of his leg as he's sitting here just typing notes. And they're like, "We're going to cut over to Steve in 20 minutes," and he just pans over and you're like.
They're doing the teaser shot, and he just got his leg up, no pants. I want to circle back because I really actually need this because I'm a creature that heavily needs validation to feel secure in my existence.
Well, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Well, talk to my therapist about it. But
the rapist for 400?
Oh, thanks, Sean Connery. You're Troy and Abed in the morning, Mark.
Troy and Abed in the morning.
I want to know. If it was worth the hype, or if you lean more toward your wife, you wish that your wife and my wife would have talked you into lowering your expectation.
Hey, wife, come here.
He doesn't say that disrespectfully. It's we've committed to our wives that we're not going to use their names.
Yep.
So
and trying not to say our kids' names as well.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to fit them into a pecking order of. We should number our children or give them code names. We should give our kids code names, podcast code names. His wife is entering into the room. She's looking at the mug. She's examining it.
It's pretty awesome.
She is looking at me and shaking her head, and her smile is fading.
He's a Community fan as well.
I know. I was wondering if he's channeling his inner Abed right now.
No, I was a sportscaster in college.
But yes, the gift is awesome. And I couldn't do what his wife had asked. Which was to deadpan and be like, oh, that's cool, and move on.
I would have known that someone infiltrated your reaction.
And it also helps that I started out with, I was already influenced by third-party sources. Before
there was no way. I was fairly confident in our friendship. I love you too. I was fairly confident in our friendship that was not going to be a gift that was frowned upon or taken with a I appreciate it, but I'm going to move on. I figured you'd be excited about that. We still have bakers to actually taste and review, by the way.
I'm fully aware.
I want to have a little on-air production meeting. So I want to hear your thoughts on whether we should have guests or not. And if we do, should they be people that we've connected with or are connected to, that we reach out to the bourbon community to talk about some of the things and banter with us, or should it be other people?
I think
or maybe a blend of both.
I think it would be a blend of both, right? I think it would be very fun to have our wives in here to make fun of both of us.
No, that wouldn't be fun at all.
I mean,
no,
for the viewers, not for us.
Well, no one's watching. A, so be listeners. B, here's why it wouldn't be fun.
No, I'm recording that on video. I want to see somebody hit you.
Here's why it wouldn't be fun. Because when we do things like that, it generally ends up being the three of you mocking me.
I don't see a problem in this.
I haven't had a therapy appointment in like 5 weeks now. I'm a little fragile here.
Mm-hmm. I respect that. I respect you.
Do you though? I mean, do you respect me? Is this like one of those rom-coms of the late 90s where am I in love with her or am I in love with the idea of her? Do you respect me or do you respect the idea of her?
We're not going to turn this into your therapy session just because you missed it for 5 weeks, but I definitely respect you, Andy.
I'm just going to say, hour 2 started out with a bang.
Yes.
I'm going to have a gummy bear. I'm going to get myself back to neutral. I'm going to have some breakfast.
You're going to
have some breakfast, get myself back to neutral.
You haven't had breakfast?
It's from Wedding Crashers, man. Oh. Gosh. So this is actually, I think, the biggest point of friction in our relationship is that we've widened each other's minds to new things when it comes to culture, music, movies, shows.
I'm listening for the new thing that you're saying that I haven't heard before instead of the stuff that I know and that's familiar and okay with.
Exactly. Like, there are certain movies that you can quote verbatim that I might know and I know I've seen, but I can't quote it with you. I don't know. I'm not going to eat gummy bears.
We just need to watch more movies together.
You just talk. I'm going to eat gummy bears.
Yeah, I know. You saved me a pineapple one.
Throw a pineapple one.
Dem's the rules.
Which one's pineapple?
Clear.
There's 13 flavors?
So
No, there's 12 flavors.
I'm super concerned that Albanese it's 12.
12 flavors, and we actually, in a 3-pound bag the other day,
didn't you take a picture of that?
No, I didn't.
Should have
But we lined up all the flavors so we could make sure we knew which gummy bears were which flavors. Did they go out of business?
No. Hell no. I would do everything in my human power.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'd buy so much stock in that company to keep them from going
I'm just wondering if they've stopped production. I mean, I would consider gummy bears as an essential business, but they're closing down pork factories as well, so who knows?
So I'm going to talk about the bottle that we have in front of us, and why don't you Google if they're closing down production? I mean, we could find that out, right?
Typing.
And it's only because you have the computer in front of you. So
it's only because I have the keyboard in front of me.
I mean, that's fair. The fourth bottle, which under the Beam Suntory ownership that we are tasting, and is also going to be the bottle that we review on quarantinedads.com/reviews.
I'm pretty sure that we're going to have to taste this at a future point in time.
Either way, This is the bottle we're reviewing from episode 5, Welcome to the Thunderdome, is Baker's 7-year. And it's 107 proof, so 53.5% alcohol. It is a single barrel bourbon. And the interesting thing about this bottle, when we were looking at it yesterday...
I no longer care.
Wait, hang on 1 second. There's something that Micah needs my attention on, gummy bear related, which frankly takes precedent over booze.
Yep. The hype is real. Albany's Ultimate 8 flavor gummy bears.
Oh my gosh, what flavors?
Natural flavors and colors from real fruits and vegetables with our signature texture, which... Haribo can suck a dick because Albany's...
I'm going to be honest, that feels aggressive, but you do you.
I'm going to do me for a minute. You opened a thing of Haribo, and I like them. They worked for a while.
Hang on, look at these flavors, though. Alfonso mango, Amity raspberry, Asian pear, black currant. So
I get to
know what currant tastes like.
Yes,
this is amazing.
Blood orange.
Oh my god, I'm gonna order 5 pounds bags of just blood orange.
They have a 200 bags of fun.
Oh my god, they have a case of Fun Size. But Fun Size has got to be really small, right?
Oh yeah, that's like you hand them out.
Yeah, I mean, those aren't worth it. Those are like fruit snack size.
You're going to get the 25-ounce family share bag, which is what this is.
Oh,
or this is 36 ounces.
No, yeah.
I mean, this is ultimate.
Hang on, what are the other flavors? Blood orange,
crimson cranberry, Fuji apple, and queen pineapple.
You love pineapple, so go on about your...
So, Haribo can suck a dick. I said it again, and I fully lean in on that.
Wow.
Because you open that bag, and I don't care if you ziplocked it. And I don't care if you ziplocked it or not.
Did you see how I accidentally dropped that ice cube, but it fell in the
box anyway? You committed to it. That was a good ting.
That was good.
You open the bag, and the next morning they're all hard as shit. Albany's doesn't do that.
Their
gummies
I actually agree with that.
Super, super good for... Yeah.
I'm going to throw a second ice cube in there. I mean, I know how we taste, but I just...
2-finger game?
I just went 2.5 to 3 fingers. I went a full Ron Burgundy on that.
Oh, we're eating pizza tonight.
Give me 3 fingers of Glenlivet, and with some pepper and some cheese.
Rescue Me. I'm sorry, we've been talking TV shows on this episode. Rescue Me.
Never seen it.
Dennis Leary.
No, I mean, I know of it.
My favorite line in that whole entire series is he's a recovering alcoholic throughout the whole entire thing. He's been dry for a while. And basically walks into a bar and goes, give me your most expensive scotch that you have, or Irish whiskey, and I want 5 fingers. And he goes, it's $320, $25 a shot, or $320 a shot. He's like, yeah, I know how much it is. Pour it. And he does 5 fingers, and he just takes, and basically they put it in a Collins glass.
Yeah.
And it's 5 fingers in a Collins glass, and he just thuds the thing back, and the guy's like, what the... And he puts it down, and he goes, pour it again.
Oh, God.
He fills it up, and then he's like, alright, so I'm going to need, whatever amount of money from you right now. And he goes, you're drinking this kind of quickly. And he's like, yeah, you'd be drinking it this fast, too, if you only had $5 in your pocket. And then goes on this awesome rant, Dennis Leary-style rant, and everything. And it was a good scene. And a good scene for the series, too. So. Baker's.
Tasting notes.
I'm
asking you to pull them up, and then I'm going to go back in with a Dennis Leary tangent that we can talk about. So, just...
Knob, Beam, Baker.
Have you ever heard the Dennis Leary... Speaking of Dennis Leary...
I've watched all the stand-ups. So, yeah.
Speaking of Dennis Leary, have you ever heard the old Dennis Leary song, I'm an Asshole?
Yes.
Oh my god!
So good.
That came out when I was a teenager, and when we were both were teenagers, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever to know all the words of that song. Whale skin interior and baby seal eyes for headlights. God, he was a genius. I mean, he still is. But fantastic. He really he was so good.
He mastered the angry comedy. How can I be frustrated and angry? And I mean, Lewis Black. Thank you.
Lewis Black, I've seen him live. He's great.
I love Lewis Black. Yeah, but both of them were kind of the masters of that angry and the frustrated tension, stress, anxiety comedy. That was super good.
The other scene, I gotta say this real quick. So my favorite television show probably ever is The West Wing. I know that seems completely nerdy, but there's a lot of reasons for it that I won't get into. But there's a scene in...
Legal reasons?
No, there's just uninteresting reasons. Like, it'd be me talking about The West Wing and you don't care, and most people don't.
You know, I have been told by several people that I would really enjoy that because of the dialogue and the conversation and everything else, and...
The thing I'll say is Aaron Sorkin wrote seasons 1 through 4, and Aaron Sorkin, like him or hate him, Aaron Sorkin is a brilliant writer. And when Aaron Sorkin finds his groove, for me, that if I actually got off of a lot of things, including my butt, and started writing, like Aaron Sorkin would be the writer I aspire to. Other than the two writers that made me want to be a writer, which are Hunter S. Thompson and Ernest Hemingway. And seasons 1 through 4 are just brilliant. But there's this one part, and we're going to take a pause here for the Lakers 7 year.
Man, we've been all over the place now. This is a good episode. I'm enjoying this.
So one of the main characters is a recovering alcoholic, and he's interviewing this other person who's younger and whatnot. She's rambling about something, and he's firing back casually because he's just in control of the conversation. And she says something about drinking, and he's a recovering alcoholic, and he admits that to her. Everyone kind of knows it, right? And she goes... I get sick when I drink too much. And he just deadpans and he goes, I get drunk when I drink too much. It's just a beautiful line. And it's when God rest his soul, because that was actually, the character is Leo, but John Spencer played Leo. And it's this crazy thing of, in season 7, Plotlines Immaterial, John Spencer died in the middle of filming that season as they were elevating his character as this kind of like culmination of a 7-season arc of his character. And he died in the middle of it, so they had to write him off the show, and they wrote him off the show as his aide found him dead. And it's this like gripping, heartbreaking, especially if you commit to all 7 seasons. It is so it hits you in a way.
Did you ever watch News Radio with Phil Hartman?
Yeah.
They kind of did the same thing with Phil.
Yeah, it's just the difference is it's a comedy, right? So it's a little bit of like...
Not as much drama.
Yeah.
It's the levity side.
Where this is 7 seasons of an arc around this particular character that Leo, that is, chief of staff, and he goes through his demons, and the president hangs on with him, and he's kind of this... He's this anchor for every other character, even when it's not about him.
It's the person that you bound yourself from an emotional standpoint to in a character arc and everything else.
He's kind of the constant of the show. The show's not about him, right? But every show that's long term has a character or two that's a constant, even if the other
Troy and Abed in the morning.
Exactly. But you could say the same thing about Breaking Bad, right? I actually think Breaking Bad, the most central character to Breaking Bad, and also Better Call Saul, is Mike.
Yes, I would agree. Mike actually brought a lot of things back to he was the handler, right? He just did shit.
Yeah. I mean, I think there should be a spinoff called When in Doubt, Ermintrout.
That's pretty good. So, I want to bring it back to, because we've been talking about Community a lot, right? Do you know who the creator-writer of Community is?
Dan Harmon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know who is the creator-writer for Rick and Morty?
Oh, gosh. You're going to now tell me that I need to watch Rick and Morty, and every time you try to get me to watch Rick and Morty, I don't find it as good as you want me to find it, and I'm hesitant to tell you that.
It's okay. It's okay.
Is it okay, though?
When you get in, and you start watching a few episodes in a row, like, you'll get into it, and you'll be like, okay, I can see how this is amazing. And so, Rick and Morty is written by and created by, as well as a couple other people, I think, on the Rick and Morty side. It is definitely a Dan Harmon thing, and it's so cool.
I get it. So, since this is the bottle that we are tasting, I want to make sure that we give Baker's 7 its due.
I mean,
on the nose, vanilla.
Yep.
And every time, I feel like it's kind of a broken record, but every time I pick up vanilla, I at least pick up some caramel. I don't think the caramel is super strong in this nose, but I get a lot of vanilla on this nose. Not as much as the Woodford Double Oak that we reviewed. Like that, which is just like, you might as well just put vanilla extract in my drink. But this is definitely vanilla notes.
If you want to get to that level, yes, you could.
Yeah.
But that's nice. It is nice.
I like it. It's interesting because it's vanilla, and there's that vanilla base there, but it's kind of bright.
I get the smokiness, but I think I get what you're saying from the brightness, right? Like, it seems fresh.
Yeah, so that leads me to, I mean, I'm obviously going to keep drinking it, but that leads me to think that there are some fruit notes that will be definable after a couple sips because of that brightness. And the interesting thing, actually, so I didn't say this because God knows what I started talking about. And we were talking, I'm going to say two things. About the bottle in particular.
Gorgeous. This is the rebrand.
But not the look of the bottle. That's the second thing. So I'm going to kick that to you in a second. The Baker's 7-year, but this is a minimum 7-year. And as they're bottling, the bottle looks the same, but on the neck they put an additional label to tell you exactly
because they're going single
when
barrel,
when it was barreled and the age of this particular bottle. So the particular bottle we picked up, even though it's a minimum 7-year, is 8 years, 3 months.
And hopefully when I described this to you yesterday as we were kind of talking to it made a little bit of sense. As the reason that you would market it as a 7 and a single barrel of minimum 7 years is you're looking for barrels that are reaching maturity, right? And when we are looking for maturity, you're looking for a very specific flavor profile. And so the Baker's side, when you're looking at that, they're looking for, okay, this is what makes Baker's. It's within this tasting profile. And you have a master blender, you have basically a mixologist that's tasting that. They'll look at it and they'll say, all right, that barrel isn't quite ready yet, but I'm going to let it sit for another couple of years. I'm going to let it sit for this amount of time. And when we looked at it at 8 years and 3 months, that's the profile that I wanted for Baker's. And now we'll put that on the bottle, but it's not hey, we decided to make an 8-year bottle and market it as a 7. No, it's fitting the flavor profile for what we consider our 7-year. And if you learn about barrel houses and single barreling, and I strongly recommend going and doing like a tour of a bourbon distillery. If you're in Kentucky, dimes a dozen and find one. Like, obviously, they're all really good, but you'll learn that different parts of the barrel houses produce better bourbons or produce, it's all about airflow, sunlight, all this other craziness. And so I think that's why you get a variety in the year.
Well, that would even be akin to, we haven't talked about it in detail, but we took some White Dog and barreled it, and we have east-west facing houses. So we put them outside for 19 months, except for, I think it was 5 days in an Arctic freeze in the winter of 1819, because we are legitimately concerned about the alcohol freezing, because it was negative 40.
It was negative 40. Those are called polar vortexes.
Yeah,
for those
that's what
of you
it was.
that don't live in the Midwest. Yeah. And, Jake Gyllenhaal was in a movie that joked about it in New York and everything else. They're real.
Yeah.
When the reason for them canceling school is because the school buses that run on propane, which is cleaner than gas, the fuel lines will freeze if they try and run them.
But there's two reasons. So that might be one.
But that's what they always lead with, and then they don't care about the kids.
No. The reason. So it's interesting because I know you travel for work. I had a job back in the day that I traveled for work, and I remember being in Delaware, and their forecast for the next day was like 2 inches of snow and maybe some rain on the front of it that would freeze to a minuscule level. And they were convinced that they would cancel school the next day. And I just started laughing. And the administrative staff looked at me and asked what I was laughing about. And I said, I'm from Minnesota. And before I could say anything else, they said, yeah, we're not Minnesota. Like, very different than anything that you guys deal with. Because here, It's more about when we cancel school, you either have to get so much snow that the roads functionally can't be plowed. Mm-hmm. But when you live in a state that has the infrastructure to plow 6, 8, 10 inches pretty easily, that it takes a lot.
They can plow 2 feet to 3 feet pretty easily, too.
So you need a lot of snow to cancel school on a snow volume. But the biggest reason we cancel school here is because it gets so cold. Yes, you just said what you said. But the other thing is that there are kids who need to wait for the bus.
For
not making any other commentary about societal commentary, there are kids who need to wait outside for their bus, and it is physically dangerous to them to wait outside for the bus. So when it's negative 30, when it's negative 20 air temperature, but there's wind with it, and it's negative 50 plus wind chill.
And the caution is, if you go outside, do not stay outside for longer than 90 seconds, and make sure you blink your eyes every 15 seconds. That's shit that people just don't understand.
That's when I let my dogs go to the bathroom in the house and just deal with cleaning it up.
That's when my dog will sit outside.
Your dog
for several hours on end.
Your dog will.
So I have a Pomsky, and that's what Kat is, and she's half...
Yeah, we can say our dog's names.
Yeah, we can definitely say our dog's names. Who cares? If anybody in the neighborhood's listening, they'll finally figure out who to yell at when they're barking.
Exactly.
Which is normally Kat. So she's half Siberian Husky, and the other half...
It's a Pomeranian, dude. It's got papers.
Yes, it is a Pomeranian. So it's called a Pomsky. It's half and half. She has papers.
I didn't buy it shoes.
She definitely doesn't need shoes. So
I didn't get it shoes. I'm not buying it a fucking beer, dude. God, I love Lebowski. Oh, man.
We need to watch that.
We need to watch that again. I haven't seen it
White Russians? We got to do White Russians and robes.
When I was in college, my roommate and I had just enough of an opposite class schedule. We'd start Lebowski together. One of us would leave for class, come back, watch the rest of Lebowski, restart it, and the other one would come back about the point that they had to leave. So we had it on loop, and we did this for about 3 months straight.
That sounds like one of my really good friends and Biodome. It's just a different level of ridiculousness.
Good God.
She definitely got more of the husky side. So she will go out during a snowstorm or when it's 20 below out, 30 below out, and sit out there. My wife and I jokingly call her Simba. Because she'll sit out on the edge of the lower deck and just look. And the only reason she starts barking is she sees people that are in her territory. Oh, and she's like, everything the light touches and that I can see is now mine.
Nice.
And I'm in charge of all of this, and I'm going to bark at anything. So this is good. I really like the Bakers.
We're talking about bourbon again.
And I like baking.
You do, but we're talking about the bourbon again. What fruit notes do you pick up? Because that's one of the things about looking at the tasting notes of Bakers before we had it, is they were very clear that because of the way they're bottling this, different barrels are going to produce slightly different notes, so they can't produce kind of that stock tasting note that a lot of other places can on their barrels.
Yeah, and if you pick up a 10-2011, which is what this barrel was, probably pretty similar to it. Granted, they're not going to give you the direct barrel number that they did, unless you're going to go buy your own barrel, which is something...
I mean, I pick up a lot of pear.
I'm calling bullshit.
Every time I say that, you look at me with this look like you just want to strangle me.
Yes, because pear is such a subtle flavor. Mm-hmm. No, pear is completely overwhelmed by vanilla and caramel. Like, yes. You're doing it to get a rise.
Yeah, I am. The more I drink it, the more I pick up kind of some toasted notes.
I get a little citrus, but not a lot. I don't get a lot of fruit on this. I don't get a lot of fruit.
And that's why I asked, because I trust your palate, particularly... Your experience in drinking exceeds mine.
Even though you're older than I am.
No, but we've talked about this. I've become more of a collector of...
bourbon because
of whiskey because of our friendship and because of what you've introduced me to. You also have the background of cooking, understanding flavor profiles in a way that I necessarily don't. Mm-hmm. So that's why I asked about the fruit, because sometimes you chat about certain flavors, and if I really focus, and sometimes that's just the mind playing tricks, right? But I can see it at least. But this is, I don't pick up a lot of citrus in this.
Like, I don't get a lot of fruit notes. If I get anything, it would be a hint of citrus. But yeah, I don't really pick up fruit. I get a lot of caramel, vanilla.
Right.
I think that it is well rounded. I would agree with the fact that, I mean, but vanilla and caramel are such good hearty notes.
Oh, I have no problem with it. The interesting thing to me, and I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing, is that the interesting thing to me, and I don't know if you're experiencing this, is how ryes hit very back of the palate. Mm-hmm. This actually has a kick to me mid-palate that then smooths off by the time it gets to the back of the palate.
You don't get the ouch on the back, right? You get the heat in the middle of the mouth, not on the back. That's which is hard to do. Like that's good.
That's interesting to me because usually it's either the heat up front and then you kind of drink through it, or it's smooth flavor and then it hits you as it starts to go down. And this is very distinctly mid-palate with its burn.
I'd say mid-forward because I do get...
Right, but it's not the tip.
No.
To me.
Just the tip.
Just the tip burn. Ouch, you're on my hair. So we're into...
And these have been 2 ounce-ish plus pours.
Either way, I like it for that it's different where it hits.
Yes. I like also it's a good bottle.
Yeah,
actually, they're not bad.
Well, that's the thing is the Basil has its place. The Knob Creek was better than expected. The Jim Beam as a standard Jim Beam. I mean, look, a liter of this runs $20. Yeah,
that one was 20.
Yeah,
wow.
A liter of this is or a 7.5 maybe, but. Yeah. I think a 175 is no more than $28 on the Jim Beam Black. So that's, if you just want to drink and you're not really interested in advancing palate or tasting limited editions or all of that stuff, absolutely this is good.
I think it's a good palate expansion because it has a lot of heavier notes that you get, right? Like if I was to compare that versus Basil Hayden.
Right.
Basil Hayden is a more lower note of like good, consistent, like not a lot of burn, good mellow flavor.
Actually, I think that's the interesting thing between Basil and Jim because we talked about it. Basil is 80 proof and Jim is 86 proof. Jim at 86, this black extra aged, is more developed by far than the Basil.
Because it's going to be a longer maturation and everything else. And
you know what Basil reminds me of? A handful of years ago, I was down in Florida at a retirement community because that's where my wife's in-laws lived. Mm-hmm. And there was a friend of their in-laws that we ended up drinking with that night. Clearly, they did this every day, where it was a liter or 175 of whiskey.
Good God.
That they just pounded through. And it was sad in a way and delightful in a way. Clearly they gave no Fs at that point, and they were probably in their mid-60s. But the Basil reminds me of the quality version of what they were drinking, where it's like, just throw rocks in a glass and pour, slam it, repeat, over and over and over again. Because there's not a lot of offensive flavors to it. You don't have to really think about what you're drinking.
Volume. You're talking about pure volume.
Absolutely. And granted, the Basil is better than whatever the hell they were drinking at the time. But the Beam actually has a flavor profile
I would prefer Jim Beam Black Extra Aged in a Manhattan over Basil.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Every day of the week.
If you were going to a bar and they had a limited selection of bourbon and whiskey, and
Beam over Basil in a cocktail.
No, but there's a decent chance that if you were someone who was going into a bar and you said, it's a mid-level bar, right? We're not talking high class, we're not talking low class, we're talking about we don't exactly know what they have. A lot of those bars have Basil behind the bar. If you wanted to order something straight, that'd be a good standard. You could probably find at a lot of bars, places. And just deal with it.
So, mid-brow bar versus highbrow bar, we're talking in the middle. So we're not counting pinkies out or teeth.
Right, I'm not talking corporate level, you're going to drop $400 on a tab, but I'm not...
Highbrow, lowbrow, I'm not counting pinkies out, and I'm not counting teeth. Highbrow, lowbrow.
I get it. It just takes me a while. I mean, we've been at this for an hour and a half, and we're 4 bourbons in, and it takes me a little bit, so you just... I need to hang with me.
That was a good one, though.
Bottom line is this.
I'll say that
I would put the Knob Creek, if you were to rate these lowest
to
highest...
I think that's where we got to start. And then I think we have to take the highest and rate it.
And then we'll talk about Bakers when we get there. I personally would put the Knob Creek as 1 of 4, and then the Basils as 2 of 4. Do you agree?
So... if we talked about closest to us versus furthest away, you'd say Baker's up front, and I think that would be mine.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Baker's up front, and that's the one we're reviewing too, and we kind of expected that, right? So I'm really dealing with the other 3 is... I would take the basil over the knob. Because
Okay.
while the knob is stronger, and I think that pulls out some of the flavor, I don't think that makes it better. But that's the thing, is that's 100 proof versus 80 proof. And if you give me one of those two bottles, I kind of lean toward... I'm just going to take the more mellow of the two because neither of them have incredible flavor to them. But I'd put the Jim Beam Black, double-aged, as superior to both of those bottles.
So we'd go Baker's Black,
Basil
Nom.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. Excuse me.
I will actually agree. I would say if it was
I feel like by your face you agree by concession.
I agree by concession because of the fact that, like, if it was Knob Creek Smoked Maple, that'd be in front of Basil Hayden. I'm sorry, I love that bottle.
I know you hate when I hit the table, but...
I was at a tasting at Jim Beam in their Urban House Distillery, which is downtown Louisville. I'm going to say Louisville, Kentucky, which that sounds correct. And it is called Louisville. I've been corrected by several people from Kentucky. It's not Louisville.
For us Northerners, thank you.
You need to...
For the Southerners that are listening to us, we apologize for our ignorance.
And, more importantly, that was a perfect pronunciation, which is like 3 or 4 whiskeys deep.
Yeah,
that's how you're talking.
I just want to acknowledge I'm from the Great White North. It's cold and frozen up here.
Yes. We're north of the wall, for people that know.
Yeah, we're quite north. But so let's talk about the Bakers for a minute.
Yeah, that's a good bottle.
So Baker's makes so again, we talked about that this is actually bottled at 8 years, 3 months, because it's a minimum 7 age, and they're obviously pulling barrels that seem like either taste or production. We don't quite know, but, maturation or production demand. But the other thing is, good God, the rebrand of the Baker's bottles, so sexy.
Nice. So nice. Yes.
The rebrand of the Baker's bottles make it look like a
craft
bourbon that you want to try. And I can't think of what Baker's used to look like, but this rebrand is fantastic.
It looked a lot like this label, Dram, and everything else in more of like the Pappy Van Winkle. Actually, Noah's Mill bottle.
Oh, yeah.
More of that wine bottle.
Yeah, in this bottle profile where it's a little shorter, a little fatter,
ballooned out, like it's that traditional.
They have a really heavy silver top on it that makes it look intriguing,
which is just reminiscent of I.W. Harper. I don't like the big knobs. I have a story there.
You don't like big knobs? That's good to know. Go on.
I made a mistake on one of my trips in Kentucky, and so you can actually, if you check baggage, you can fly bottles of alcohol back domestically from within the U.S.
Is that after you go through security? If you buy them basically at duty free?
No, so this is before buying them through there. And I have some really cool bottles, which we'll talk about on later episodes, that I've got from Lexington's airport that was super cool because they actually have a full liquor store inside the terminal. That's after security. But you're only allowed to transfer 3 liters of actual alcohol in a checked luggage. So I went to a couple distilleries and I bought some really cool, harder to find bottles. And one of them, and this was 3 years ago, and 3 years ago you couldn't find I.W. Harper anywhere, right? And that was pretty much all exported outside of the United States. I brought a bottle of I.W. Harper back, I bought one of the Orphan barrels back, and I want to say a really cool, I forget what the third bottle is. I did it in my messenger duffel, which was my carry-on. Normally I just do it as overhead storage in my backpack. And it was because I was staying about 3 days. So I was like, I'm going to stuff them all in here, and I had wrapped everything perfectly. Mm-hmm. None of the bottles technically broke.
I remember this.
My wife had said to me, hey, it just makes sense, and the kids are going to want to see you. We can do dinner after we pick you up. I'll just drop you off at the airport. I'll pick you up. I'm like, okay, great. Mm-hmm. I was like, I've got time. I can check luggage. I checked it. Come through. I come to basically baggage claim. And I'm like, where's my bag? Where's my bag? Where's my bag? And I hear this slop. And then I hear it hitting the conveyor belt going down. And I just see this liquid pouring out of the back half of my bag. And I'm pretty sure I made the smell of bourbon.
And it was the IW that...
It was the IW that popped, and I was so disappointed in that bottle, not only because of the price, but the fact that it was an embarrassing moment for me, that it's been a little disappointing.
Well, here's the thing.
We need
to rate this bottle of Baker's 7, and we need to get to the nightcap.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Baker's 7...
This is the after cap, because this is the after
Jesus. I don't even know what's going on at this point. The Baker's 7, it's got vanilla. It's got vanilla on the nose. It's got vanilla on the front end. It's got a little bit of caramel undertones. You can tell there's some fruit, but it's not really developed to the point where you can identify a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
And then at least from my comment, and it seemed like you agree, it's got the interesting mid-palate burn versus just hitting you directly up front or waiting until the back of the palate.
I like the profile. I love the rebrand on the bottle.
Oh, the rebrand on the bottle is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most attractive bottles we've purchased in the last, I'd say, several weeks.
I would agree. Like, we've gotten some really cool bottles the past few weeks, but I feel like the more and more you get to the more eclectic bottles and the more pot still bottles and everything like that, you're getting to more nuancy, short, stubby bottles.
There's a difference between bottles as marketing and bottles as identity, in my opinion.
When
you think of the Willet pot, no. When you think of the Willet pot still bottle, that's an identity bottle, right?
Because it's shaped like the pot still.
They've done something that no matter what, you're going to identify with the shape of the bottle. This is a marketing bottle that I think works. Mm-hmm. It's just solid. It's well done. I like the idea that they give you the information of when it was actually bottled on the label instead of just calling it a 7-year, and acknowledge that as a single barrel, that's going to change over time depending on when your barrel is bottled that you're buying.
Yeah, and they're looking for, while the tastes will change, you're looking for a more consistent experience in your single bottle, right?
So what we know is Troy and Abed in the morning works. Much to our wives' suggestion that it wouldn't, and that you should lower expectations. I met every damn expectation there was. And on the Bakers, I'm going to give it a 7.3. And the reason I'll give it a 7.3 is because the 7-year, I think, is affordable. I think it's interesting in the fact that they've made it a little bit more of a, for lack of a better term, a craft product in the way that they're barreling it.
I love
I think
the labeling.
And I love the labeling, but I think at the same time, the lack of development in those citrus notes makes me not want to give it a really high mark, because citrus is different than saying there's orange or there's this or there's that.
No, and I think all these bottles, they hit different palate notes, but they stay on that note, right? You're not deviating, or you're not changing, you're not growing from a complexity standpoint as you sip it, as you taste it. You're getting the same note, which it's different notes of a chord, right? Oh, man. There you go. Some music style to you. Notes of a chord.
I'm just amazed that an hour and a half into the liquor run we're this coherent, because there's part of me that wants to just take a nap.
Well, I mean, we had a nice rain this afternoon as well.
Is there any better smell than rain on pavement in the springtime? The summer smell changes, but in the springtime, when you're in that right temperature,
I would say spring and fall, you get these rain notes where it's like not on pavement per se.
And let's be honest, it's just wet asphalt is the notes you're getting, but because of the temperature, it's pleasant versus just baked over. Like when it's 90.
For me, the nice rain notes are like when you're in a forest or something like that, or you can hear and you can smell all of the plants open up and kind of start releasing some stuff.
So the Bakers,
I don't like asphalt.
So
you say 7.2. You said 7.3.
I think 7.3.
I'd say 7.2.
Okay, so let's round up. Let's call it a 7.3 and move on with our life. Unless you're... That's what we did last week. That's the only thing, is we averaged and then rounded up.
Yep, we did. And I think 7.3 is fine.
Actually, you know what? 7.2.
I think if you were to rate...
Because the 7-year, I'm not sure I want to buy a bottle. And don't get me wrong. If you want to try something from Baker's as an introduction, I think this is a worthwhile bottle. But the only way I'd go back to Baker's is if I splurge on something greater than the 7-year. I don't know that I'd buy the 7-year again, because I think there are a lot of things we already own that are like it, or slightly better.
And that's why I said 7.2. Like, if you could look comparatively,
which is why I'm saying that rounding down to a 7.2, considering I was at a 7.3, like, I think 7.2 is the right score because of what I said, and because why not?
Oh, that was interesting. I was eating that with with an orange gummy bear, and as I took a sip, I got like chocolate.
It's amazing what you pick up when you pair it with food.
Mm-hmm.
Which, because future episode wise, the idea of bourbon with food, I think, is completely missed with people. We all know that wine with food is that thing. Mm-hmm. And obviously, the craft beer scene tries to push beer with food, but I think bourbon with food is equally as interesting. And like, we talked about that yesterday or Friday night in terms of some new bottles that I bought, and what we made, even just some really good bacon cheeseburger. They were actually, or barbecue bacon cheeseburgers. Mm-hmm. Good God.
With cheddar, and then
now the 4 bottles are starting to set in, folks. And the barbecue bacon cheeseburger, there was a certain bottle that I had that both at one hand, like, complemented it with its flavors, but on the other hand, overwhelmed it because it had such identical flavors.
Right, and you want a little bit of a different spin to give you a different flavor.
You want that counterbalance, right?
Yep, and
the same thing they talk about with wine is, big part of the pairing with wine is the fats and the acids on your tongue from the food. Does the wine cut through that, or does it add to it? Because when it adds to it, it actually isn't what you should drink with the food. Right. It's when it cuts through it and counterbalances it, that's the wine you want with that particular food.
You want it to complement what you're eating and not necessarily wipe the palate clean or overwhelm the palate and everything else. 7.2, great bottle rating, I think.
Like we talked about last week, anything above a 7 is it's drinkable. If you like it, put it in your liquor cabinet, right?
I would actually put all of I'd put most of these in the above 7.
The only one I wouldn't put, like if we were doing that, the only one I wouldn't put in my liquor cabinet is the Knob Creek. Mm-hmm. But like I said earlier, I would go back and try some of the older aged Knob Creeks because that was good enough to make me intrigued. It's just I don't know that bottle of Knob Creek is what I'd throw in my liquor cabinet.
I need more maturity in that bottle.
Because if you're going to go 100 plus proof, you have to be good enough flavor wise to justify that you are now 50% or greater alcohol. Yeah. And that was right on that line of I enjoyed it, but it's easier to take a couple lower proof bottles and have it be that bottle.
Right. And I think there's not a lot of complexity there that you get with some of the other bottles in right around that price range and some of the other more unique bottles that are there. So pleasantly surprised of the black.
The black was probably the most surprising of all. Is
it meets expectations of like if you're going to throw a thing highest rated bourbon, blah blah blah. It better lead up to it. Well, you do get the flavor of the original Jim Beam bottle, but it's so muted that you know you're drinking Jim Beam. But I don't really care. It's a good bottle.
Well, and that's one of the things, right? When you talk about this first liquor run was Jim Beam Suntory. And we did that because they're the largest producer of bourbon in the world, because they have this global reach, because they're sold in over 200 countries, not necessarily because of a quality profile or a regional profile or some other thing that ties future liquor runs together. And having said that, Jim Beam Black Extra Aged, I will tell you right now, I was shocked by how that drank, because to me, Jim Beam, and I hesitate to say it,
because
it's easy to say about the quote-unquote larger producers that they're either the lower quality or they're the mixers. And this Jim Beam Black Extra Aged, I would drink it on its own. And it's still not to the level of the Baker's 7 that we've obviously had, which is the step up from the Jim Beam, or the Beam Suntory products. Right?
Right. Again, we need to go back to Budweiser, Bud Light, Coors Light, all these other things. And you talk about that is a consistent taste and consistent profile that is real, like, to achieve that year in and year out and blend that. And I'm sure it changes over years and everything else as tastes change and your blenders change and everything else. But it's so hard to do. And the fact that they get consistent stuff, they are the number one producer. Like, this is really the Jim Beam episode more than it's the Jim Beam Suntory, because Suntory...
Or more than it's the Baker's episode.
Right. I would actually say this has given me a greater appreciation for Jim Beam than I previously had. That's something to be said.
Right.
I was very much looking forward to the Extra Aged. I knew what I was going to get on Knobs Creek. I was hoping I would get Baker's that would be on the better side. And Basil Hayden is just Basil Hayden.
So why don't we do this? The Baker's is a 7.2 for us. The whole liquor run is a success. We'll be doing a liquor run out in a couple months because, like we said last week...
We're not going to do the full reviews, but just throw some numbers.
Give me a second. So the liquor run is something we'll do every couple of months. We've got planned out into July. The next liquor run we're really excited about because I think it's going to, or we know it's going to focus on a specific territory that's near and dear to us to see what we can put together in terms of ratings, and we will rate all 4 of those. But this was the Beam Suntory episode because, look, they're the biggest producer. They make a lot of brands, and really why we're into this as much as... we love the banter, is to create the structure of those bourbon and whiskey reviews, and you can't start anywhere other than with Beam Suntory and those. If you want to give them specific ratings, we can do that. Otherwise, we'll move to the nightcap. What do you want to do?
I would very much like to cross off Booker's off this list, because that's apparently what we were originally going to do, and I pulled an audible and said I'd rather do Baker's. And I don't feel bad about that one bit. We did 7.2 on Baker's.
So the Baker's is 7.2. Do you want to rate all of them just because, even though we're
I think we'll do the full review of Baker's.
We're going to do a full review.
Do numbers.
Honestly, the Baker's and the Beam, I'd probably put the Beam at a solid 7.
I would actually agree. That's what I was thinking. Drop 0.2 of a point.
To me, I'd put the Basil at probably a 6.8, 6.7, somewhere in there.
I'd say 6.4.
Yeah, so let's do 6.5.
Yeah.
And I think I rated it a little higher purely on the drinkability because I'll acknowledge the flavor profile just isn't there. And then the Knob Creek is okay. It's not offensive, but I'd probably say a 6.2 just because it's a lot of heat. It's not developed. It's 100 proof. So it really depends on what your drinker is, but I think it's a basic level as long as the person who is enjoying it is willing to have something that's a little higher proof.
I would actually say 6.4.
So 6.3?
6.3. Sounds good.
6.3 average.
I would say, from my rating standpoint, I'd rate it closer to Basil Hayden. It's got more rich caramel flavors that you expect from a bourbon. It's not as diluted and mellow, but doesn't really change a lot. All decently available bottles. Yeah, and that's actually cool. We rated all 4 of them. There was not a lot of contention there. I think you did a really great job of describing all of them. I think we agree for the most part. Knob Creek and Basil Hayden, we have different tastes, right? And everybody's going to taste things differently. If we disagree with what you're saying, that's cool, but realize that everybody has different palates. And we're going to do the nightcap. And
so the question is, before the nightcap, is I just got a text message that said, my wife is in your home right now. Wife!
Where's the wives? Stub toe.
I've just called for my wife, and she's entering the room. Hi.
I'm here.
How would you expect me to not react and expect this to be so fucking amazing?
Well, it was funny yesterday because when I was warning him to, cool it on it. And
if we kept doing the Troy and Ovid.
I mean, it took everything to not just, start crying laughing.
Is this... Oh, God! Oh, my God!
He loved it. He immediately loved it. I know him better than you know him.
I don't doubt that.
I did try and downplay it, and then as soon as I saw it, I was like, son of a bitch. I can't hide this.
Is it 5 in the afternoon and you have coffee in your hand?
It's true.
Oh, wow. This is impressive. Long weekend.
Listen, I almost fell asleep at 2 o'clock.
The rain hit, and I was like, oh, God.
So how was the tasting?
You can try to defeat me, but you will never win. I know Micah better than anyone.
So, by the way, it's still recording. I just figured I'd point that out so we don't use real names. It's wife,
right,
husband.
Gotcha.
Douchebag.
Wait, you guys don't use your real names?
Well, we use ours.
But we don't use the kids, and we don't use yours.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of editing around that.
Right? Go to the conference.
I mean,
no, it's fine.
Laugh so hard.
We're actually trying to finish.
Airplane bottle of the beet vodka. You can't just dismiss me like that.
No, she's
in. That's how it works.
Fine. So we're going to
choose to leave.
Are we going to do the nightcap? We're doing the nightcap right now.
What? Do you want to stay for the nightcap or do you want to leave?
I'm sorry. This would require me having listened to any of this to understand what you're talking about.
God. Keep that in. All right. You may leave. You may leave.
Okay, now you may dismiss me.
And we will be done in a bit.
That's like Troy and Ovid in the morning. And they're like, it's 6 a.m. I got up early. Why is there no camera? Troy and Ovid in the morning.
On to the nightcap, shall we? Now that my wife made an appearance. My wife. So you have a nightcap. And frankly, I'll be honest. For the liquor run, we collaborated on the nightcap. And I think we'll do that on future liquor runs. Because if we're going to taste 4 bottles, we got to be on the same page. Any of these bottles, right? I'll let you say it, but any of these bottles.
All 4 of them. I think you're going to get different things out of each of them, and I know you're going to pick a different bottle than I am.
Yeah.
And I really want to do, I'm going to do Jim Beam with the nightcap with. I know you're going to probably do, what do you know, I would say Basil Hayden would probably be what you're going to do. Unless you do Bakers.
I'm going to rock the Bakers. But bottom line is we collaborated. The Bakers. Yes. The bottom line is we collaborated on the nightcap. The nightcap is going to be a nice little bourbon mule. Mm-hmm. So we're each going to pour ourselves our selected bottle.
And we've been
some ginger beer.
Silently smelling our hands.
We have some mint and some ice already in our glasses. And I'm going to do a heavy pour of Bakers.
And 2 dashes of my Orange Fee Brothers.
Yes. And 2 dashes of your Orange Fee Brothers are in here. So we'll do some ginger beer.
That was a lot.
And do that. And look, that's a successful first liquor run, my friend.
That is. I would actually say 2 things. Number 1, don't chop mint. Period.
Like you slap at that base.
You slap at that base. You slap it at basil. You slap it at mint. I learned this from a really good mixologist that was like, don't ever cut those. Pull them off the stem. Pull them off it. And then
but it's also in neat, which we've talked about before.
It is actually in neat. You lay the leaf on your palm. You take your other hand and you slap your palm, and that breaks all of the cell structures, and it releases the oils, not the bitters, so you get more mint, more flavor, and then you can smell your hands for like hours, or until you go wash them.
Mine smell like mint and gummy bears right now.
Mint and gummy bears, yes.
So we poured ourselves a bourbon mule with our selected bourbon. You chose Beam.
You chose Baker's.
You chose Beam Black Double Aged. I chose Baker's 7-year, and that's the first liquor run, my friend.
That is the first liquor run.
We made it through. We've survived.
I would like to sit here for like probably another couple minutes and just talk through what you think about the Fentimans.
The Fentiman. Oh, this is Fentiman's ginger beer. Yes. So I've had it. I want to say a couple weeks ago we had Fentimans.
No, I don't think you've had the Fentimans. Fentimans, they make my favorite soda of all time, which is Cherry Cola.
Right.
They're based out of the UK.
I like it because it's a little softer of a ginger beer. I can tell that right away. It's not as, for lack of a better term, carbonated to the basic taste.
Could have been that you opened it about 45 minutes ago, but you know.
Well, I mean, either way, I like it. I mean, this is good. This is a good mule. I'm not going to complain about that. But at the end of the day, we're on to our mules. We're back next week. Next week is Cinco de Mayo. We have a little special idea percolating for that we're going to get into.
I'm getting the hand of you can't spoil it.
Yeah, I just give the hand of you've tasted 4 bourbons. Don't say anything else, please. And
around next week's episode, I'm allowed to still talk. It's not that kind of relationship.
I don't know. I'd kind of like if you just shut the hell up, but. Either way.
Likewise.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I have no delusions about how gregarious I am. Gregarious is the correct word. Gregarious reminds me of Vampirina Ballerina, which my kids watch because there's some sort of character that reminds me of that. But any hoodles.
It's a bunch of laughing toodles.
Let's do this.
I made that rhyme.
Cheers to a nice bourbon mule. A 7.2 rating on the Bakers.
And some pizza.
We are signing out until next week. Thank you for listening to Quarantine Dads. Quarantine Dads podcast. Rate us on iTunes, on Spotify. We're also available on Stitcher or wherever else you get your podcasts. We are also at Dad's Quarantine on Twitter, but more importantly, we're at Dad's Quarantine on Instagram, where we do most of our production right now. And I will say this. I will say shout out to the Bourbon Thieves. I will say steal the last drop. And I will say, Micah, what else do you have?
And as always, we can't go outside. There are bears out there.
Cheers.
Cheers.